Well, hello YouTubers. Okay, continuing my series of gold extraction from incinerated IC chips videos. This, you can just see it up there, is the panned out remains of a whole bunch of IC chips. This is actually a pretty big batch. So even after I panned it out to where I didn't want to go any further because I was afraid of losing metal, it still was a lot of material. I should have probably divided it up into two batches instead of one big batch. But here I am giving it a preliminary treatment in nitric acid in this bucket. And it's actually not pure nitric acid. I didn't waste my hard-won nitric acid. You know, I've got a bunch of videos about how I make my own nitric acid, but you know, I'm not going to use it for a preliminary treatment of this stuff. So I just put it in a bucket with some water, added some sodium nitrate to it, and then added some concentrated sulfuric acid to it. Got a really vigorous reaction. And this is sat overnight. And you can see how blue the liquid is. So I've dissolved a lot of the leftover copper out of it. So what I'm going to do is, that's the preliminary treatment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decant off this liquid, and then I'm going to rinse the stuff, and then I'm going to put it into a big beaker, and then we'll give it a second treatment. And this time it will go onto a hot plate, and I'll probably do the same thing. Rather than use my nitric acid at this point, I will just put some sodium nitrate in there and some sulfuric acid, and then just put it on the boil and see how much more of the base metal I can extract from the mud down there. And then when it looks like that reaction has played out, I'll rinse it, and then we'll go to Aqua Regia to get the gold out. So I'll show you more steps in the process as we get there. Alright, so here's the stuff that got the preliminary treatment in the bucket. Really a little bit more than I would like to put in a beaker, but yeah, I'll just work with it. Probably be okay. So it got its preliminary treatment in the bucket, and I'm going to do the same thing again. This time it's going to get a little heat thrown in too. I just set the bucket out in the sun yesterday and left it overnight. But I'm going to put in some just some tap water. That's about 400 milliliters worth. Got to have something for the metal salts to dissolve into. That's a little rusty, you can't hardly read it, but that's sodium nitrate in here. I'm going to put in a healthy dose of sodium nitrate. And then some concentrated sulfuric acid drain cleaner. So what that does is that makes nitric acid in there, as well as sulfuric acid too. So, and look at it bubble away. There's definitely still some metal in there. It's being attacked by the acids. Now I'm going to put the heat to it, and that should give it an even better reaction, or get an even better reaction going. I want to get as much of the base metal out of this as I can before I treat it with Aqua Regia. There's a fair amount of gold in there, but I want to get clean gold out of it. I don't want to get gold that's contaminated with copper, nickel, iron, whatever. So I'm going to just give it another treatment. Is it showing up on the film? Yeah, it's showing up. You got the orange-brown fumes forming, so we got a good reaction going on in there. The heat is not even warmed up yet, other than getting a little warm because I put the acid in it. So we'll give this a good boil. From the color, the deep blue color of the liquid I decanted off of it when it came out of the bucket, I could tell a lot of copper had already dissolved out of this stuff, but I'll bet there's a lot more to go. I'm going to give it this treatment, and if it looks like it needs it, I'll give it another treatment until I'm not really getting any more base metals out. So we'll see how this one goes. And I'll show you the next step in the process when we get there. Okay, here's our stuff boiling away. You can tell by the copious brown fumes coming out of the top of the beaker that the nitric acid is attacking some base metal in there. Probably mostly copper. Yeah, fumes really aren't showing up as well on the video as they are to the eye. But there's a fair amount of fumage going on. So I'll just let that go until no more fumes are being evolved. Then I'll give it another shot of sodium nitrate and sulfuric acid. And see how much more of a reaction it looks like I'm getting. I'll know all the base metals are dissolved when I stop getting a brown fume reaction. Okay. It's boiling. I just put another shot of acid and sodium nitrate in it, and I got a little bit of brown fume production, but not much at all. I would say most of the base metals are dissolved by the acid by now. So I've turned the heat off on this. I'm going to let it cool down and let it sit here overnight. And I think by tomorrow morning it shall be ready for me to decant off this second dose of liquid here, of acidic liquid, and rinse out the base metal salts from the mud at the bottom. And then we should be ready for some Aqua Regia, I think. But I'll just let this go until tomorrow, and reaction can continue till then, just to make sure all the base metals are eaten up. See you tomorrow. Alright, it's the next morning. This stuff has been sitting here overnight. I actually put it on the heat again for a while this morning just to make sure that there was no more reaction, and there really isn't any more reaction going on. That late addition of acid and sodium nitrate I did to it yesterday, I'm sure that hasn't all been used up, and there's no reaction going on. There's no brown fumes. There's no bubbling beyond a little bit of boiling going on. So I'm sure the reaction has gone to completion, as far complete as it's going to get. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to decant off this blue liquid with the base metal salts in it, and I'm going to rinse the mud in the bottom a couple of times to get as much of the base metal salts out as I can, and then it'll be time for Aqua Regia, and I'll show you that when it happens. Alrighty, I have decanted off that blue liquid full of base metal salts and rinsed the material in there 3 times to get the bulk of the base metal salts out of it. And now it's time for Aqua Regia. So let me see, I get to where the graduations are here. We're gonna put in 400 milliliters hydrochloric acid, enough to thoroughly cover the mud down there. Alright, let me swirl it around and get all the mud down at the bottom. Okay. Can't pick it up with my gloves on. And now, some of my homemade nitric acid, concentrated red fuming nitric acid. It's about 1.5 milliliters. A little over 1.5 milliliters per squirt here. I'll put about 4 squirts in. There's a fair amount of gold in there, but of course it always looks like more than it is. I could when I was washing the material with rinse water, I could swirl it around like a gold pan, and I could see the gold all accumulating in certain spots in the bottom of the beaker. So there is some gold in there. How much? It's hard to say. This is the remains of a whole lot of IC chips, though. Probably 5 or 6 pounds of chips at least have gone into that mud. I already got some bubbling going on. I don't know if you can see that. Let me grab the phone. So we're getting a reaction already. I don't even have the heat turned on yet. There we go. Now it's got some heat to it. And this will just get more vigorous as it warms up. So I will show you what this looks like once the reaction gets going good. Okay, got a good vigorous reaction going on. I've actually turned the heat off. I don't want to get too out of control. Got a lot of brown fume production up here, so this is working good. I'm just going to let this sit and simmer until the reaction seems to have stopped. And then I will test it for gold content with stannous chloride solution. And we'll see what we get. So I'm just going to let this cook for a while. Alright, I've been doing all this out in the open so far because it's easier to see and hear for filming than inside the fume hood. But I'll tell you what, the amount of nitrogen dioxide coming off of this reaction is just insane. And, I got to put it in the fume hood. I turned the motor off here for a minute so you can hear me easier. I got to turn it back on. But, wow. They've got a heck of a reaction going on in that beaker there. So that leads me to believe, or at least hope, there's a lot of gold in that mud. So let me get the motor turned back on so we're exhausting these fumes a safe distance away, and let the reaction proceed. Alright, let me turn off the fume hood for a minute so you can hear what I'm doing. I'm going to do a stannous chloride test on the liquid in here. It's still bubbling, it's still producing lots of nitrogen dioxide gas. I just want to make sure I've actually got some gold going into solution and it's not just digesting more base metals that were missed. So I've also got some fresh stannous chloride solution in here in the fume hood, but let me get a little bit of the liquid here. Alright, this came out of the pot. It's the right color, so that's a good thing. If it was dissolving more copper or nickel or whatnot, I'm sure it would be a different color. So let me hit it with a little stannous chloride solution now and see what we got. Oh my, that is a deep, deep dark purple. That is a really strong indication of gold. So that's excellent. Did you see how quick and how dark that was? Yeah, there's a lot of gold in there. Good. Excellent. I'll let it continue to cook until there's no more fumes being produced. I may actually put a little more nitric in then, just to see if I can get some more gold to dissolve out of that mud. Based on past experience, I will probably have to do a couple of extractions on the mud to get all of the gold out of it. 2, maybe even 3, depending on how much is in the second extraction. So, but I'm liking that. That is super dark and purple. I think there's a lot of gold in there. I can hope anyway, right? We'll see. Alright, the reaction has stopped. I put another shot of nitric acid in it a while earlier and it fumed some more and bubbled some more. But the reaction has stopped. And what I'm going to do now is turn off the heat and let this cool down. And then I'm going to filter off the liquid on top of the mud. I'll probably set up my vacuum filtration setup, because there's a lot of solids in there that'll clog the filter real quick and it'll take forever otherwise. So I'll set up vacuum filtration, I'll get the liquid off the mud, and then I will start a second extraction on the mud while I process this first batch of liquid. So I'll show you as I'm going. Alrighty, what we got here is the hot liquid off the hot plate in the fume hood. I've got my vacuum filtration set up ready to go here, but this is still hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ice in it, cool it down. And what that's going to do is that's going to both dilute the liquid with more water and cool it down. And between those two things, I'm hoping that any silver chloride in solution there will come out of solution and we'll be able to catch it on the filter. Some of it, if there is silver chloride in there, some of it will probably make it through the filter. But I can always run it through the filter a second time because the filter will get loaded up and then the pores in it will be smaller, and the second time I run stuff through it'll come out cleaner. I'm hoping there's not much silver in there. I'm hoping that the first few extractions that I did with the nitric acid got rid of it. That there might be a little bit, but I need to cool this anyway before I filter it, because you don't want to filter a hot acidic liquid through a paper filter. The filter could fail. So anyway, I'm going to let that cool off and then we'll start filtering. Alright, here we go with the filtration. I'm going to try and leave the mud in the beaker. I just want the liquid off of it. Then I will start a second extraction on the mud. It's the right color and it's reasonably clear. Let's see once it get a little more in the beaker just how clear it is, or if it's kind of cloudy. This is a little cloudy, but I did stir it up some too. Alright, I won't make you watch the whole filtration. This will take a little while. I'll show you what I got in the end. Okay, just finishing up the filtration. I rinsed the mud a couple of times with distilled water, let as much of the sediment as I could settle out, and then put it through the filter up here. There is some sediment in the filter. Coming through pretty quickly. It's going to take a little while to finish up. In the meantime, I've got the mud back in the fume hood. Another shot of Aqua Regia in there. Hydrochloric acid, nitric acid in there. Just now starting to warm up. Not really seeing any reaction yet, but it's really hasn't warmed up above room temperature yet. So I'll keep an eye on it and see what's going on. And once I've got this stuff all filtered and washed the color out of the filter, I haven't denoxed this yet. Hopefully I haven't used a lot of excess nitric in there. I didn't want to denox it while it was in there because I figured it would be hard to denox the mud. So what I'll do is I'll denox it once it's in this beaker here. I have a saturated solution of sulfamic acid. I'll pour that in to denox the solution. And if I see any kind of precipitate form, I'll just run it back through the filter again and clean it up. Hopefully I won't get any kind of precipitate. So I'll show you when that happens. Okay, looks like we're done filtering. Nice clear filtrate. Maybe got a just trace of cloudiness to it. Just a slight trace, and maybe just a slight tint of greenish-ness to it. Not too bad. Of course, I always refine my gold at least 3 times, so any impurities in there will get removed eventually. And this filter, I will put it with my used filter storage and process them at some point. Alright, So let me find the sulfamic acid solution and see just how much excess nitric we've got in this. Oh, that's looking pretty good. I'm not really seeing any reaction at all. Okay. Good. All right. I guess we are ready to drop the gold. That'll happen next. So here we go, ready to drop the gold. I would normally do this in the fume hood because I really hate the sulfur dioxide that's produced, but the mud's in the fume hood cooking away and it's producing more nitrogen dioxide, so I guess that's a good sign. So we'll just do this outside where you can see. In goes the sodium metabisulfite. Just using stump out. Didn't get any reaction from the sulfamic acid, but I'm not liking the looks of the bubbles coming out. The bubbles are orange, which tells me there may be some excess nitric in there. We'll let this sit and see what happens. Yeah, the color's darkening. That's a good sign. Hopefully the gold will come out of solution and not go back in. Alright, we'll just have to let this sit and we'll see what we get. You see a film of what may be gold on the surface. So we have precipitated some gold. The solution's really dark, so that's good. We'll see what we get. Okay, it's the next day. Here's the gold I got from the first extraction. I swirled it around a little bit yesterday because there was a lot of gold floating on top. Get it to sink. So it looks like a decent amount. You know, always looks like more in the bottom of the beaker than is there, but it looks like a decent amount of gold. I got busy yesterday with things. That's why this sat overnight. The color, I don't know, I need to do a stannous chloride test on it to make sure all of the gold has dropped out of solution. I wouldn't be surprised if that color is from iron. There was probably a little bit of iron left in the mud there from the icy chips. So I wouldn't be surprised if that color's from iron, but I'm going to test it just to make sure. If it needs, you know, if there's still more gold in solution, I'll put more SMB in it and get it out, but I doubt it. And then yeah, I need to put this back on the heat over here, the mud, and finish the second extraction. I kind of aborted it yesterday because I got busy with other stuff. So I'll put it up on the heat, maybe put a little bit of fresh hydrochloric acid in it and some fresh nitric acid, and finish the extraction on it. And then I'll do a stannous chloride test on it too to see if I'm getting anything. So that's the agenda for this morning. If the stannous test over here shows there's nothing left in solution, then what I will do is I will decant off this liquid, clean up, dry up the gold, and we'll see what we got. Alrighty. Here's the gold from the first extraction. Boiled it in hydrochloric acid, boiled it in distilled water, dried it up. Let's weigh it up, see what we got here. Some fine stuff in here stuck on the side of the beaker. Not really enough to make a difference. It's windy out here, so the scale's going to jump around a little. Alright, I'm calling it 1.16 grams. So that's not bad. Not too bad at all. Alright. Put that away in my stash before the wind blows it away. So that's not too bad for the first extraction. We'll see how much we get out of the second extraction. Hopefully we get a little bit more. Stay tuned. Okay, this is the second extraction. Just took it off the heat. Whatever reaction was going on there earlier seems to be done. So let me get a sample of the liquid. Sorry, I bumped the tripod. Do that all the time. Okay. Let me get a little stannous chloride solution. We're here in the fume hood. Let's see what we got. Okay, it's not nearly as strong an indication as what we had with the first extraction. But there is some gold in there. Okay. I would say based on this, the strength of this, we probably don't need to do a third extraction. I think I've got everything out of the mud that I'm going to get. So next step is going to be to filter this liquid and drop what gold is in there. So I'll show you that when I get set up for it. Filtration. Here we go. I don't know, it sure looks like a nice color for not seeming to have too much gold in it. We'll see how much gold it really has in it. Alright, it's going to take a while to filter this. I got to rinse the mud a couple of times, get what liquid's in it out, and get it all through the filter. So this could take a while. I won't make you watch it. Alright, here is the filtered and denoxed liquid. I didn't show you the denoxing. I did it the same as the first batch. So filtered and denoxed liquid from the second extraction. It's, you know, not looking as strong as the first one, so I don't know how much gold I'm going to get out of this. Probably not near as much, but we'll get some. So let me turn the fume hood on. I'm going to do this in the fume hood so I don't have to breathe the sulfur dioxide gas. It's going to be loud. I'm just going to let that sit and we'll see if anything happens. If not, I can put more in. And for now, I'm just going to let it sit. Alright, let me turn off the motor so you can hear me talking. I was sitting about 20 feet away in my workshop and I was just looking out the door at this from time to time. And nothing seemed to be happening. It's been not quite 10 minutes since I put the SMB in. And then I saw it over the course of about 20-30 seconds go dark. So it's darkened up a whole lot. So finally the gold is starting to come out of solution. Not sure why there was such a delay. I normally don't have to put that much SMB into the beaker to get something to happen, and usually when it does happen, it's almost immediate. So I'm not sure what happened with this. What I need to do is put on my gloves and put a little bit more SMB in just to make sure I get a full gold drop. Let me pause this while I do that. Okay, here we go with a little bit more SMB just to ensure that all the gold drops out of solution. When I need to turn that motor back on too before a cloud of sulfur dioxide comes out of there and gets me in the face. Alright, so now we just gotta let it sit and see what comes out of solution. I'll show you when it's done. Okay, it's the next morning. It took a long time for this gold to settle. It's really fine. Really super fine, but there's a really pretty good dusting of it on the bottom of the beaker. So I'm sure I'm not going to get anywhere near as much as I got from the first extraction, but there is some gold there. So I'm going to try to clean this up like I did the last time, the stuff from the first extraction. I don't know, this gold is so fine it may not want to clean up as well as the previous stuff. It may not want to agglomerate together and stay in the bottom of the beaker. You know, if it decides it wants to spread back through the water column and not settle, I'll just capture it all on a filter and deal with it that way. So we'll see. So I'm going to get to work cleaning this up, and I'll show you what I got in the end. Alright, here's the gold from the second extraction. Cleaned up, dried up. I just need to weigh it up. As I was afraid of, I had a fair amount of difficulty cleaning up this gold. I siphoned off most of the liquid because pouring it off would have put that fine gold back in the water column. And then I added some distilled water and I boiled it hard for a while, and most of the gold agglomerated into bigger chunks that stayed in the bottom of the beaker, but some of it wanted to stay in the water column. I did some washing with hydrochloric acid later, and then some more water washing. Each time some of the gold stayed in the water column and there's a slight brown tint to it. And what I would normally do, and what I've been doing for years, is I would pour that wash water into my stock pot and let that fine gold settle into the mud at the bottom, and then when I process the contents of the stock pot, I'd get it back. But what I've been doing lately is I just pour off the rinse water through a filter, and you can see the fine gold captured on the filter there. And what I will do is I will take this filter and set it aside, and the next time I make Aqua Regia to dissolve some gold, I'll just throw this filter in it and the gold won't go to waste. Yeah, there's not enough gold there. I mean, there's not enough gold on that filter to move the scale, so it won't throw off my my readings on whatever I'm working on in the future. You know, it just won't go to waste. So there's the rinse water, nice and clean of gold, but that will go in my stock pot because there's probably some platinum group metal salts in there, so those can come out of solution on the copper in the stock pot. That'll go into storage, and I will get this weighed up and show you what it weighs in a minute. Okay, it's a little windy out here. Maybe I can put something to block the wind so it's not blowing the scale around. I do it in my workshop, but I've got a big fan in there because it's like in the 90s, and it's not any less windy in there. Okay, so it's gonna stabilize around, yeah, we'll call it 0.12 grams. That's actually, you know, not too bad. I knew there wasn't a whole lot of gold there. Now it's down to 0.09. 0.11. Just gonna bounce around because of the wind. Anyway, I knew there wasn't a whole lot of gold there. There was, you know, it was really fine and it took a long time to settle out, so I knew there wasn't a lot of gold there. So I guess if I add this to what I got from the first extraction, that comes out to, what is it? It was 0.1, it was 1.16. Add this to it, now it's down to 0.10. Well, that makes the math easy. We'll call it 1.26 grams of gold from about 5 or 6 pounds of mixed ICs, all kinds of ICs. There were big flat packs, small flat packs, RAM chips, dual inline chips of you know, small to large, old and new. Oh, it's bouncing around a lot, but I'm sticking with I'm sticking with 0.1. Sticking with 0.1. So 1.26 grams from, you know, just you know, 5 or 6 pounds of IC chips. That's not too bad. I'll take it. And I've got a lot more IC chips to process. I've been depopulating boards from some servers, and I've got just scads of IC chips. So the gold will accumulate a little bit at a time. Anyway, so that's the complete process. With the end of this video, I've showed you the complete process from depopulating the boards to eating the legs off in AP solution of the chips, eating the legs off the chips, putting the chips through the foundry to ash them, washing the ash away, and then panning out the metal content of the chips. Boy, that just keeps going down. If it keeps going down, it's going to reach 0, but I don't think it's 0. It's the wind. So anyway, you know, and then putting the panned stuff through the acid washes and Aqua Regia, and then precipitating the gold out. So now you've seen the entire process of how I deal with IC chips. Is there a better way than how I'm doing it? I don't know. Maybe. You know, I've seen some people smelting them, and you know, smelting is something I might want to get into in the future. You know, it might cut a couple of steps out of the process, maybe, or speed things up, or use fewer chemicals. Hey, it went to 0 just like I predicted. I think it's the 0 tracking of the scale. Every time the wind blows, and it's going to be negative here shortly. Every time the wind blows and the number goes down, it resets the 0 point. So that's the problem. So anyway, I'm going with 0.1 grams for this second extraction. Anyway, so you know, there may be a better, more efficient way than the way I'm doing it, but you know, this works for me. You know, feel free to leave some comments. And also, you know, if you found this video or this series of videos at all useful or entertaining, you know, hey, give me a thumbs up, like the video, and subscribe. See my future videos if you are so inclined. Anyway, thanks for watching. Keep it safe out there, everybody, and have a good one. Bye.